So remember we talked about the formula for life success at Growth Club. It was
Yeah.
be who you need to be times what you do equals what you have. So if you think of that, that's the formula for life success. If you think backwards, we work on the haves right away. Those are the goals, getting clear on your vision and what you want in life and in business. Now business should just give you the tools to make those goals happen. And then if you want to have average, just do average and just be average. But if you want to have awesome, you got to do awesome. But in order to do awesome, you have to be awesome.
Welcome to another episode of the Bridging Divides podcast, where we get you the advice, tools, and resources that you need to help build the bridge to success, whether it be in business, relationships, or anywhere in life. Super excited to bring you our guest here today, Tom Dougherty. Let me give you a little intro on him. Tom is the founder of the Abundance Operating System, AOS for short. He is a certified action coach, business coach, executive coach, global public speaker, sales trainer, and certified YOS trainer, which you're telling me a little bit about that earlier. I want to hear more about that. He is known as the up the mountain coach and not the out of the hole coach, which again, I'm gonna ask for clarification on that. He works with business owners and CEOs that are good at what they do and want to have a great business. And honestly, his motto really sums up why I asked him to speak here today. His motto is business should give you more life.
That's right.
Which I absolutely love. Tom, super excited to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So Tom and I met networking. Common theme for a lot of these episodes is through BNI. And when I met you, I loved what you were doing with really helping business owners. Big part of Bridging Divides is to, yes, be successful, but in the right way. You know, what are the priorities, the why, right, that is motivating you to gain the success that you want to have.
Right.
You know, and so I went to your Growth Club, which was a great intro because we had met maybe once or twice before.
Right.
And you're like, hey, come on.
Yeah.
You know, and I went.
It's a great place to get started.
Yeah. It was fantastic. Met some really great people and really saw the core values, I feel like, of what you do, which is why I was like, okay, we need to connect more. So I'm super excited to have you. Before we jump in to the meat, we gave you the intro, kind of bragged about you a little bit. Fun question. You know, what's something that nobody knows about you that you don't mind revealing on camera? I guess I should say nothing incriminating.
I'll give you two. One is really
cool,
fun and kind of silly. I remember back in high school, we had a church leader that worked for a marketing company, and he was shorthanded, a staff member one day, and he needed some help. So he asked me when I would think I was about 16 or 17 years old, just old enough to drive and borrow my mom's car. And he asked me to dress up like the Icy Bear, you know, the Slurpee, and go visit 4 Kmarts in Los Angeles. So if you can imagine, it was hot out, it was the summer, and you have to wear this fuzzy outfit with a big sweater with a big eye on the front and this giant fiberglass head, and you looked out through the mouth. You weren't allowed to talk. There would be a line of kids and parents waiting for you at the Kmarts, and you know, you would get your picture taken with them and do a little dance. And so I did that for one day. That was my one opportunity. It was a lot of fun, but thankfully there was no digital photos back then or social media.
No proof.
So nobody really knows, except for like unless they've asked me that question.
Oh,
so
that's a good one.
That's a pretty.
Man, that had to
not too many people know that.
That had to have been killer.
Yeah. That was my kickoff for Hollywood, pretty much. That was,
and you're like,
the Icy Bear behind the mask. So yeah.
That's awesome. So you said 2.
Oh, 2. Let's see. Another one would be when I was in college, I was a ski instructor. And so if you lived in LA or in San Diego, I was the guy on the Bear Mountain Ski Resort commercial every single day. It was filmed every single morning, and you would watch Jeopardy It was filmed, actually was aired in the LA and San Diego markets during Jeopardy. So that was a lot of fun for that year too.
That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Man, that's fun. Well, you've only, you just keep going up, first Icy Bear and then you.
Yeah, moving on up, right. So.
That's awesome. So we were talking before, and I made you do some homework, for this, and because a big part of really what we're trying to accomplish here is to really change the perception of what success means. It doesn't mean sacrifice all your time away from your family and you do whatever you can,
Right.
you kick and scream and you
Right.
break everybody down around you just to get ahead.
Right.
And not to say that you don't need to work hard, you
Right.
don't need to have some sacrifice, that sort of a thing. But business should enrich your life, enrich other people's lives.
Right.
And so really getting into the meat here, we want to talk about what divide you're bridging. Now, a couple of these things in your intro kind of touch on that. And so describe to us what the YOS trainer is.
Oh, the YOS is a new certification, and it's an assessment that you can take it's perfect for everybody. And what they found is that there's 9 different types of whys. And so once you realize somebody's why, their how and their what, by the way, gives you all 3 of these things.
Yeah.
It's easier for you to understand, about yourself first and foremost, about who you are and why you do things, right? And then when you have your team, that could be your family or your team members at work, take the assessment. It helps you better motivate them and helps them reach their goals, which I know we'll be talking about them too.
Yep.
So like if you help people reach their goals, you'll reach yours, right? So if we know their why, that's the first thing. So I wish I would have known about this 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's all new, and it's been hugely successful, and we'll talk about my why is a better way, is finding a better way. So if you know me, I'm always looking for a better way to improve things, whether it's a system or a paintball gun or a bicycle or whatever it might be. There's always a better way. And so that makes sense, knowing that my why I do things before I found out about the YOS. It kind of fit hand in hand. So yeah.
I think that's fantastic. And honestly, for me, because I've done a lot of different things, and at times I'm like, gosh dang, like why can't I do this, or why can't I do that? Why can't I be this way or that way? And some of the behaviors that I didn't like that I would do if I would put something off or whatever, I noticed that with bridging divides, with what I'm doing now, I have that why more than I ever have. And I find that I can't leave it alone. Even when I'm like, oh, I need to take a break, and so I'll just be relaxing, doing something, watching TV or playing a game, and then I have a thought. I'm like, no, I got to write something down, and then I end up, spending half an hour or whatever.
Right.
And so I have found that with that why, that fuels the passion. When you don't feel like having, like if you don't have motivation to keep going, that why, you can go, no, I know why I'm doing it, and so it kicks you into action. John C. Maxwell, in the book I'm reading right now, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, really, he's got a lot of good ones.
It's a good book.
He talks about how sometimes the motivation isn't there to get the action done, but the action fuels the motivation.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. So what we found is that
It's beautiful.
people might have these goals, and if they don't tie the goals to a solid why or a bigger impact, their motivation is fleeting. So like motivation comes and goes.
100%.
But if you can tie it to a big why of helping somebody other than yourself, usually, like with your community or your family or your church or, a charity or a nation, then that'll get you out of bed and get you moving and taking action. Because your self-motivation is minimal. So if you tie that to a bigger community, it's much bigger impact, and it'll get you going and really make a big difference. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's great.
Yeah.
No, all right. Well, hey, moving on. So you, honestly, a lot of what you said, the why, the how, the what, I just sent you questions and you kind of see kind of the bridge strategy that I talk about,
Yeah.
and how those kind of align.
Mm-hmm.
Really just want to dive into your journey of how you've achieved the success that you've had. Because you talked about, you mentioned briefly the paintball gun, which is a cool one.
Yeah.
You've worked on were they parkas?
Yeah, I was a sales rep and sales manager for a company called Canada Goose, where we make the down parkas made in Canada. Then IPO'd that company for $391 million.
That's insane.
Yeah, while I was living in Newport Beach, by the way. So
Yeah.
we didn't need down parkas.
Not a
in
lot of
Newport
parka
Beach.
sales there.
Or in Phoenix. So I moved from there to Phoenix. And
Yeah.
so I didn't sell a lot of parkas here, but it's a big global company, yeah.
Oh, I love that. But with all of that, you've had these amazing successes and breakthroughs, and with what you're doing now, the impact that you're having on
Right.
a bunch of other business professionals, CEOs,
Mhm.
and business owners that want to then create impact.
Right.
The first building block that we have in the bridge strategy is blueprint. It's all about why you want to do what you want to do,
Mhm.
but then what are the limiting beliefs that are preventing you from getting there, and how do you combat those?
Right.
So what have you noticed through your journey, and
Yeah.
now even
Right.
maybe, that have been limiting beliefs for you, and what have you done to combat those?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people might have the same limiting belief. And mine was when I was a kid, was the limiting belief around money. And that money was scarce, and we didn't have it. So my parents got divorced when I was like 5, and my mom got remarried to my stepdad when I was around 7. And we moved from Orange County, California, up to Northern California for a bit. And every time I wanted something, whether it was like, hey, I needed a new baseball glove, or go on a trip, or to an event or something, my mom and my stepdad would always tell me, oh, I'm sorry, but we can't afford it. Right? So I don't know, maybe there's some listeners out there that grew up that their parents just habitually say that. And as a kid, when you're 7, it just burns into your brain that we can't afford it. So you now learn the scarcity mindset, that there's only so much money in the world and you don't have it, right? So how people overcome that is a tough one. And I was really thinking back and giving a lot of thought to, somebody asked me the same question, how did you overcome that? And so thankfully, about 3 years later, my mom got separated and later divorced from my stepdad, and we moved back down to Southern California. And then I got to see my real dad more, like every other weekend, and my grandfather. And and they were hardworking guys. They didn't have much money either, so it's not like they had a whole bunch of money, So they were hard workers, growing up on a farm in Pennsylvania. And so when I would ask my dad or my grandparents for something, they would say, oh, that sounds great. How are you going to earn the money to get it? So when you're a kid, your brain now goes into the creativity, like, how am I going to get the money?
Love that.
So, it might be, as a little kid, might be a lemonade stand, or for me, it was a paper route and mowing lawns, and I would do any chores around the house, wash cars. At my grandpa's house, he'd always have a bunch of, back then it was beer cans. It needed smashed. So like we would smash the beer cans with this metal thing that he made. Sure. He welded this heavy weight on the bottom of a pole.
Oh, get out of
and
here.
They didn't have that.
Yeah,
we'd use our muscles and we'd smash these things. We were pretty strong, 11, 12, 13-year-old kids. And then we'd go and take them down and recycle them and get the money, right? So we recycled cans. And so that just taught us how to earn money. And so then by the time I was in high school, I lived at my mom's, and my mom, did an amazing job. She only made like $17,000 a year. So I would work 2 jobs in high school and play sports because I wanted the money. So I worked in the ski store in the winter, and I taught skiing and lifeguard in the summertime. So that would give me spending money to go do things, and that's what got me into the ski business for later on in life, and that was a long career there. But so if there's one thing is the scarcity mindset, getting rid of that and having the abundance mindset. So if you have kids, which I know you have a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, there's an abundance there.
Yeah, you got abundance of kids. So kids their minds are so moldable, even at a very young age. So that's the one thing, if there's any parents out there listening, make sure they're telling their young kids, like, how are you going to earn the money to get it? You know, so instead of, oh, well, we can't afford it. So literally my dad, my grandparents, my mom, they couldn't afford it. But they would, you know, my dad, my grandpa caught on pretty quickly to, you know, how are you going to raise the money to get it?
I love
so that was a big thing for me. So,
well, and that's, thank you for sharing that. That's such an amazing story. And really that mindset is so empowering, because all of a sudden, instead of being kind of a victim of your surroundings, of your circumstances, you now are the one in control.
Right.
You say, okay, this is what I want. And instead of saying, oh, no, I can't, you go, no, okay, what am I going to do in order to change that? I love that. So the second building block of the bridge strategy is lay the first brick. All about initiative, accountability, productivity. You know, so the question here that I have for you is, how has initiative, you're not waiting for someone else to lay the first brick, how has that led you to a greater level of success?
Well, when it comes to laying the first brick, I think of like taking a risk and doing something outside your comfort zone. And two examples of that was my freshman year in college at San Diego State. We got like 6 weeks off for winter break. And so before that happened, it was Thanksgiving time, and I wanted to be a ski instructor. So I called up the ski school director at Bear Mountain Ski School, and I said, hey, I want to be a ski instructor for this year. And he said, oh, well, we've already done our hiring for the season for our part-time and weekend ski instructors. And I said, well, I get 6 weeks off for winter break, and I want to be a full-time ski instructor during that winter break. And he says, okay, great, come on up and ski with me and some of our supervisors, and we'll see if you can cut the mustard. I remember the guy was from Vermont, and he said, cut the mustard. His name was Joel Munn. He said, can you cut the mustard? And so I went up and skied with Joel and his supervisors, and I was given the red and blue parka at the end of the day, and that was my first job teaching skiing. So,
love it.
So went outside the box. So that was a good one. You know, you just got to take a risk and try it. When I got my job at Payne Weber, it was my senior year in college, and my goal since I was a sophomore in high school was to become a stockbroker. Yeah. And I called up the manager. I didn't usually go through the normal routes of applying for a job. I would always call and talk to the person in charge. And I talked to the branch manager. And this was in the Carlsbad branch at the time. I later transferred to La Jolla. And so I said, yeah, I want to be a stockbroker, work for your business. And he's like, well, they were kind of on the fence about it because, I hadn't finished school yet. And I said, well, if you don't hire me, your competition across the street, which literally Merrill Lynch was right across the street. Oh, geez, and so was Smith Barney at the time. Smith Barney's no longer around. Neither is Payne Weber. It's part of UBS. So I went through 5 interviews with Payne Weber and got that job. And so just not following the regular way and just going outside the box and doing it. Because again, looking back, my why is there's a better way. Yeah. So, now if we apply for a job today, these young kids are applying for jobs and putting out thousands of resumes and hoping to send it to somebody on LinkedIn or whatever, and they're not hearing back. You just have to take the initiative and go to people, because we still hire, people to take initiative and just come to us and bang on my door and give me a call or get my cell phone number, or text me somehow, and instead of going through the regular system. So
and I think that there's so much value in asking. I think so much of the battle is mustering up the courage to take that first step,
Right.
to call somebody up
Yeah.
and say, hey, can I have a moment of your time? You're
Yeah.
asking for
Yeah.
something, you know? And on a previous episode with Angela Tauscher, I was telling you about her. She sold her realty company sold $36 million worth of homes in a year.
Yeah.
Did really great. And she talks about how she's had mentors and all these people that have helped her grow.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that she had said is
Right.
that she has we have to learn to ask,
Right.
to
Right.
call somebody up,
Yeah.
ask them for advice, call somebody
Yeah.
up and say, I want to learn from you, or if it's a job.
Can I tell you an example of that
Please.
just that happened this past year? I have a client that's the owner of like 6 different companies. And for one of her companies, she would do the marketing, and she would call up the typical, call the front desk, try to get the person in charge, and she was getting the gatekeeper. Mm-hmm. And I kept saying, you're the CEO of your company. You just need to talk to the CEO of that company as the CEO of your company. And since then,
Interesting.
she's invited the CEO to dinner, and they did a deal that's now worth $50 million. By not following the normal route, the chain of command, just going right to the top from general to general and doing the deal.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And that's that. Honestly, it kind of goes into the blueprint building block of how you perceive yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that confidence of, oh no, I can't talk to somebody of that caliber. So what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You're a person of that
Right.
caliber.
Yeah.
And I think that we downplay ourselves a lot.
Yeah. That's the imposter syndrome.
Imposter
Right.
syndrome.
You don't feel like you're worthy or you're good enough, even though you're the CEO of your company or whatever it might be, that you're afraid to go talk to another CEO.
Do you still have that creep up?
Everybody does. Yeah.
Can you tell me an example of that? Because I look at you. I was telling you before. It's like,
Yeah.
Tom's who I want to be. And he's like, stop. He's a super unassuming guy. But oh
Yeah.
my gosh,
Yeah.
you speak on
Yeah.
all these different places. You have this impact on so many
Right.
lives.
Right.
Something that I aspire to.
Right.
I would love to hear.
Well, I'll tell you when you're, public speaking is a hard one for people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, it was for all of us. It's gotten easier for me, but like when I can speak in front of hundreds of people, do I get nervous? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Just like everybody else. It gets easier and easier the more you do it.
Yeah.
But when you're speaking in front of your peers is sometimes the hardest.
Weird, right?
Yeah, like for me, it's like if I'm presenting to other action coaches around the world, like for instance, the summer's Thailand's coming up and we have our global
Right.
conference there.
Yeah, you're telling me about that.
Or we had an event in Nashville or last year in Vegas. And it can be a little scary, because they're judging you think, right? So yeah, your imposter syndrome kicks in. Like, I might have $1 million business today, but can I have a $10 million business in a few years or ever?
Yeah.
Ever? Am I capable of having a $10 million business, whether it's an HVAC business or a plumbing business or an e-commerce business or a real estate business?
Yeah, anything.
Can I sell that $5 million home? Am I good enough?
Yeah.
And I would actually tell the person a lot of times it's a lot harder to sell the $250,000 house that somebody can barely afford it as opposed to the $5 million house
yeah.
where the
It's
person's
interesting.
buying their third or fourth house.
You
and
changed
has done
that.
it quite a bit.
Yeah, I love that.
The first house is the hardest one, and for somebody to buy or sell. And it's not somebody, somebody's not buying their first home that's $5 million, unless they're an overnight, internet crypto kid or internet kid or somebody in Hollywood, right? But so I would say get to start selling the expensive homes quickly.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier.
No, but that's great. No, thank you. That's definitely something.
So yes, I still do have the imposter syndrome. My good friend Dr. K is great, and he has a program, the Overcoming the Imposter Syndrome course. And so I've been through that course, and I recommend all my clients and friends do it. So I'm sure we can put the link to his course someplace.
Oh, absolutely.
And Dr. K. So
Yes,
he spoke at my growth club.
He is on my list of people to
So
interview.
you should definitely have him here, and he can give you more information on his imposter syndrome course. So
Okay, you heard it from him,
there you go.
Dr. K.
Yeah.
Tom said, you should be interviewed. So
That's right.
yeah, so I'm coming for you next. No, he is absolutely great. I met him and talked to him at length on what he does, and just does amazing work. Hey guys, just want to take a quick break and say if you guys are getting any value from this, if you guys are enjoying it, having a good time with us today, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Everybody says that, I know, but hey, can't beat them, join it. Just want to let you guys also know about our newsletter that we have coming out. It'll let you know about all the latest and greatest news that we've got, anything Bridging Divides related, all the events that we've got coming up, all of the different organizations, nonprofits out there that are doing awesome, amazing things that you can also be a part of. It'll also let you know about the book that I've got coming out, The Bridge Strategy. Super, super excited about that. And we'll let you know when that gets released. We'll also let you know about any additional nuggets of information and inspiration that we've got, different fun stories that we don't necessarily mention in these videos or episodes. So if that's something that interests you, then check it out in the description and we'll make you part of the Bridging Divides family. Excited to have you here. We'll get back into it. Oh, that's fantastic. The next building block is lean in. Lean into who you are. All about strengths. You know, what unique strengths do you have? Which we've talked about. You know, there's the DISC assessment. There's also so many other different assessments out there that can tell you kind of what your strengths and kind of what's unique to you. And it's really important to know, you know, kind of what strengths you have, especially if you're managing a company and you're trying to say, okay, well, what are mine? And what can I delegate that might not be, you know?
Right.
I've talked about how that's why Kayla is on my team.
Right, good.
to take care of
Smart.
all the stuff that are not my strengths. So how have you leaned into your strengths in a way that has helped you succeed?
One, just like you're talking about, I took an audit of all the things I was doing, and I was doing way too much. Yeah. And you know, I'm not good at everything. You know, you talk about the triathlete or the jack of all trades, the master of none. You know, they're never really working in their genius. They're just trying to do everything, and so really just getting the stuff that I'm not good at, or it's just a lower time value for me. You know, could I mow my own lawn? Sure. Do I like it? Maybe. But it's so much easier for me to pay David $50, you know, to have his guys come and go and do it. And so just really staying in my lane. I like to call it your genius. So like, what is things you're best at? For me, it's connecting with people, coaching, and seeing things from outside in that they need to work on. And so everything else I pretty much leave to other people. What's got me to this far would be sales skills. And sales has changed over the last, say, 20 years. Back in the day, let's go back 100 plus years from now, somebody would come around to your front door and they had something to sell, and if you didn't buy it from them, you could only buy it from them, pretty much, right? Or if that person came to that old western town on that stagecoach and he had that special serum, and you could only get it from him, right? So like, but today everything's different. Like, you can do research on the internet and you can buy it a million different places. You can go to your local store, you can buy it on Amazon, you can buy it on eBay, you can buy it at an e-commerce site. Like you said, you could do the reviews. And so really the consumer's in charge of the buying process now. So your job as a salesperson is really to help them make a professional, informed decision. So instead of telling how great your product is, now it's more asking questions and getting out of them what they need, and then finding the solution for them. So being really good at asking questions and helping others make a professionally informed decision.
Love that.
And so when you help people reach their goals, you know, you'll eventually reach yours. So we'll talk more about that, but yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that being able to connect with other people is definitely a skill. So, you know, it's something that you can develop, and not to say that you can't develop where your weaknesses are, but man, I feel though that when you are operating within your strengths, it's a lot more fulfilling. when you go, this is where I feel like I belong. This is where I feel like I should be working,
Right.
devoting my time and
Right.
energy, emotion, all of that into.
Yeah.
And so I love hearing that, because connection's a big one for me too.
Right. Yeah, you're really good at that. I would say, yeah, when there's a skills like test, if you will.
Yeah.
And that is, when you're good at something, you probably like doing it.
Yeah.
If you're not good at it, you probably don't like it. Right? So for most business owners, I'll give you an example. For most business owners, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are they at bookkeeping? Most business owners give themselves like a 0, 1, or 2.
I was gonna say,
You know, they're not good at it and they don't like it. So that's the first thing we should get off their plate.
Yeah.
You know, hire a bookkeeper, obviously, you know, either in-house or outsource it. Then find out what they are really good at that's a high value skill. For a lot of business owners that have the passion around their business, it might be sales of their product or service. So they're probably the best to do the sales, at least for right now.
Yeah.
And then as they scale, start duplicating themselves. It might be designing the products or services. It might be training up the team. So you need to be in your genius and getting rid of things that aren't your genius, using the 4 Ds, you know, deleting them, delegating them, and deferring them, so that you can just do and just do your genius. And the sooner you can get those other things off your plate, the quicker you can scale your business.
Oh, love that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And really, I feel like you scale any part of your life, you know, anywhere you want to improve.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, being
Yeah,
able
absolutely.
to trim the fat.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
go plow forward. I love that. One of my favorites, really kind of what has fueled a lot of Bridging Divides, why I love the interviews, is because I love collaborating with other people, is this next building block, which is complete their bridge.
Right.
You know, life's not a competition.
Right.
It's collaboration. You know, we weren't put on this earth. I believe that God did not put us on here to live alone.
Right.
You know,
Right.
to be these standalone creatures. And so with the complete their bridge building block, it's all about listening to other people, figuring out what they need, being genuine and authentic in listening to them, not just like, ooh, okay, I'm going to listen and see how I can exploit this for what I want, but genuinely putting somebody else's needs first and going, okay, what is it that they truly need? Why do they feel they need
Right.
it? And really making them feel listened to and validated, and so that when you come and say, well, hey, this is how I can help you, it doesn't come across as, oh, here's the pitch now.
Right.
Here's the close he's trying to do.
Right.
It's just a natural progression of how we're doing things. And that goes for business and relationships as well. You know, an argument with a spouse or any sort of disputation or anything, you come at it from that viewpoint, and it's going to go a lot better for you. I speak from experience. What is it that you need, hun? And I'll help you. How have you noticed the principle of fulfilling other people's needs? How has that led to your success? And what have been some unexpected kind of benefits that have come from operating that way?
Unexpected benefits. Let me think about that one for a second. But helping other people, and so in coaching, our number one job in coaching is not telling, but it's listening. You know, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so you have to be a really good active listener. And so as a coach, my number one job, besides accountability and focus, is asking questions. Asking questions to get to the root of the problem, asking questions to what's next, and getting very clear on that. So, and it's not from my agenda or our system of what we're going to teach on. It's all about what they need at that time. You know, so like especially in one-to-one coaching, it's all about what they need right now. You know, because I might have an agenda for a coaching session, but if you just tell me your top salesperson quit, by the questions I ask you, what's going on this week, what's most important, and this, that, and the other, and you tell me, and so now we're going to have to deviate, and so we're going to have to pivot and work on what you need. And we might get to the details of why that person quit. Maybe there's something, if we go even deeper, see an amateur coach, we go, okay, well, let's start the hiring process and find you another person. Well, maybe there were some leadership skills, communication skills that were lacking in the business owner. So we need to address that problem first. That might be the leaky faucet, because we could keep hiring people, and if they keep quitting, what's the real problem, the root cause? So you got to ask questions and get to the root cause. Some interesting things have always come up when we go deeper and deeper and why things have happened. I can't particularly give you one particular instance today, but
that's great. Honestly, and so such a big, like you said, this such a big part of what you do is listening, specifically sitting there and going, okay, well, what else, or what next, or what's on your mind, like what are you thinking, that kind of a thing, and kind of being that guide, which I love about what you do. Again, because as opposed to being like, okay, I'm going to take over everything and I'm just going to tell you blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, that can have some benefit to hire an expert to say, okay, here's what we need to do. But I feel like with trying to, like in your business, correct me if I'm wrong, when you're trying to help them build their business, if you come in and say, here's everything that you need to do, as opposed to them going, no, I need to do this. It's not as... like it's not theirs almost.
Right.
If
you just tell somebody to do something, they're less likely to do it unless they think it's their own idea. Right. So if you get it out of them that that's what they need to do, and they're saying it in their words, they're more likely to do it. So as a coach, I want you to do it, but so if I just tell you what to do, exactly what to do, then I'm just a consultant. Right. Here's a checklist. Do this. At Action Coach, what sets us apart is we are coaches, and so we'll get that out of you. But we are also teachers. We have 3,500 business solutions. We're coaching 20,000 business owners a week in 84 countries around the world. So
fascinating.
30 years this summer we've been doing it. So it's like we have a whole bunch of do's. Like no matter what kind of business you're in, but it still gets back to coaching. What do they need? Who do they need to become? Right? So that's super important today as well. They might, like for instance, when I'm an executive coach and coaching CEOs or COOs or top key people, they're already great at what they're doing.
Right.
They already know all the do's. They just need to be coached to become a better leader, a better manager. And that is, that's a lot different than just, oh, hey, you need to hire, or hey, you need to put this system in place, or this, that, or the other, right? That's working on their B. Who do they need to become? Right? So remember we talked about the formula for life success at Growth Club. It was B, who you need to be, times what you do equals what you have. So if you think of that, that's the formula for life success. If you think backwards, we work on the haves right away. Those are the goals, getting clear on your vision and what you want in life and in business. Now, business should just give you the tools to make those goals happen. And then if you want to have average, just do average and just be average. But if you want to have awesome, you got to do awesome. But in order to do awesome, you have to be awesome. You can't be average and do awesome things. So the level of your success comes up to the level of your B, who you become. So at some point, my clients have learned all the do's, and we're very clear on the haves, and we're always working on the B, whether it's leadership skills, organizational skills, negotiation skills. I have a list of about 50 things off the top of my head on who you need to be a great leader and business owner. Some of those things fall under skills that you need to have. Some of the things that have to do with beliefs and values, and then identity. Who do you think you are? And those are all controlled by your environment as well. Sometimes you need to, sadly, get some new friends, because they say you become like the 5 people you hang out with, right? You've heard that before. That's absolutely true. So if you're hanging around the crazy people, they're saying, no, you can't go out and do your own business. It's too risky.
Yeah.
If you keep hanging out with them, sure enough, that's what's going to happen.
Find some new
You're not going
friends.
to take the initiative to start your own business. But if you hang out with other entrepreneurs like us, and you're gonna be surrounded by like-minded people, they're going to support you, and you're going to step up to that level. That's what Great Growth Club is great for. Number one,
absolutely.
we're going to get clear on your haves and your do's and your be, but you're also going to have this new community of people around you, like-minded people. They're going to support you in that.
The environment that you are in is so important, because a lot of times we are victims of or we're products, I should say, of the environment that we're in.
Yeah.
But what I think that a lot of people don't realize is just how much power they have over the environment that they're in.
Yeah.
You don't like something, change it.
Yeah,
if you can't change
you
it,
have to change it.
leave it.
Now, the environment is not just the people you hang out with.
Oh yeah.
But it's also, the movies you watch, the
Yep.
music you listen to, right? The books you read, the seminars you attend or don't attend,
Oh,
the
yeah.
workshops. So I highly recommend, if you want to step it up, like, you have to work on your B. What can I do? What are the skills and the identity I need to work on? What workshop can I go to? What book can I read?
Beautiful.
Who do I need to be hanging out with? Who do I need to cut loose?
Yeah.
Who do I need to add?
No, I love
Right.
that. I love that. Awesome. So just to moving on here to the next one, the last building block is reinforce and review. So when you're on your journey to success here, you constantly have to look back and say, okay, what should we either get rid of? What didn't quite work so well,
Right.
or what needs to be tweaked just a little bit, or what should we repeat? Let's do that.
Right.
Review that. What have been some of the what have been some of the mistakes that you have been through that we can learn from?
Yeah, one of the big mistakes I had when I had a small business at Race Gun was trying to go at it alone. Trying to do everything myself, and then I started hiring a few people. Did that help? Well, I didn't have any help in hiring them. I didn't have any help I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a coach back then. I didn't know there was a such thing as business coaches for businesses at that level.
Yeah.
I knew that there was executive coaches, for big executives, in corporate 500 people, but I didn't know there was coaches or mentors. So I would say get a mentor sooner. I mean, I still have a master coach myself and get a lot of coaching. Tiger Woods says, he's one of the all-time greatest golfers, if not the best golfer in the world, right? Yeah. I like Jack better, but Tiger has a coach, and he says, why does he have a coach? Because you can't see your own swing. So a coach will push you harder. A coach will help keep you accountable to getting it done, help keep you focused, and be looking from the outside so that you avoid those mistakes. I made a ton of mistakes that, had I had a mentor or a coach that could have helped me avoid those, a lot of those were costly mistakes.
Yeah.
Costly mistakes, both on time, team, and money, and relationships ultimately.
Yeah.
Because I thought back then you had to sacrifice everything to have a successful business.
Yeah.
And I totally, wholeheartedly disagree with that today.
Yeah.
I think you can have it all. So now you want to have
awesome.
the have it all lifestyle. So that means you want to have a successful business, successful family, be successful in your physical body, and and a spiritual, everything. You can have all of that. You don't have to give up any of those things. And some people think they do have to give up.
No, and honestly, it's like, if you're giving that stuff up, then what was even the point? I
Right.
feel like,
Right.
No, thank you. That's awesome. I'm taking notes here. So to wrap up here, want to talk about one of my favorite segments that we talk about is the positivity prize fighter segment. Life sometimes it does not pull punches. Let's just say that about life. And sometimes, man, it will knock you down, and you feel like you've been KO'd. But you don't lose a prize fight by getting knocked down. You lose by not getting back up.
Right.
And so, could you tell us an experience that you have had where you felt like life had knocked you down, and that you had to get back up,
Yeah.
spit the blood out, and say, no, the fight is still worth fighting.
Right, right. Oh man, I can tell you a ton. There's happened. I don't consider it failure. When something doesn't work out, that's just like step one. That's just stage one, right? You got to do it again and do it again and do it again, right? So, but if you quit, then it permanently becomes failure. Otherwise, it's just learning lessons, right? So, I'm sure a new salesperson that's picking up the phone, making a cold call, if they would have quit after the first no, they would have never made a sale. Yeah. When I had a business, I had a manager that worked for me that literally on a weekend backed up a moving truck and sold all of our inventory out of the warehouse. We're talking about, $1 million+ worth of inventory.
What?
And I could have easily just, threw in the towel and quit the business, and it was very hard at the time, but we managed to make it. I said, I'm not quitting, and referred back to my why. My big goal of what I wanted was bigger than this one speed bump at the time. So just keep focusing on what you really, really want and not just the little problem. Life is going to throw a ton of crap at you, but it's really how you deal with those things. If you quit when things get hard, it's not going to be worth it, for one. If it's just easy, the things that are worth it aren't going to be easy. All the successful people that I know went through a ton of crap.
Yeah.
But you only hear about the success.
Right.
But, you only see the success, but you don't know through all the crap, that people have gone through to make it happen. You hear stories about, people having no money and then, rising up from that, or living on the streets and filing bankruptcy or whatever it might be. Fortunately, I didn't have any of those type of things, but I have friends that did, and now they're super successful today because they didn't give up, and they surround themselves with great people. Does that answer your question?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you surround yourself with people that are going to go, see, I told you
Right.
you that was a bad
Right.
idea.
Right.
Then you go, see, I knew that was a bad idea. And then it's that cycle. And so that, again, surrounding yourself, having that environment.
Yeah.
What media are you putting in your mind to
Right.
go, or what are you taking in that is going to either fuel you forward or break you down?
Yeah. So, and when a door gets shut, a new door will open. So, like, let me give you an example. After we IPO'd, Canada Goose was going through that period when it was IPOing. I was the President's Award winner that year, and they didn't give us any stock. They cut our pay by a ton before they went IPO'd, and then laid off the 2 top salespeople in the United States. Jeez. That was myself and another guy. And so I immediately picked up the phone and called the competition and became the global vice president of sales and marketing for the competition, right? So that was a step up from where I was. And then years later, with that company, they were doing some stuff that was shady. And I found out that they were doing shady stuff. So I didn't, I had to part ways.
You were telling me about this, I remember that.
So for a while there, I had just been married for about, maybe 5-6 years at the time, 5 years. And so I quit that job, and I had nothing going on. And so, and if it wasn't for that, I would never become an action coach. Action Coach reached out to me and found me. And so now we're making a huge impact. So instead of selling expensive jackets to rich people, we're making a major impact in the community. So if I can tell you my real true why,
please,
or why I do it. So when I first got married and I fell in love when I was 40. I was a terminal bachelor for all those 40 years, living on the beach in Newport. Some people say that's successful. And but to me, I was still not happy. I'd almost given up on getting married. And I just happened to be on a trip in San Diego, and I met my wife and fell in love. And her and her daughter, Taylor, so Lori and Taylor, they lived right here in Ahwatukee, up in the foothills. And so a year later to the day, we got married, and so I moved to Phoenix, where I knew nobody.
Yeah.
And so I was traveling, selling jackets from here at Canada Goose, and then later on the other company. And I remember I was in the Houston airport, and I got a call from my doctor that I had melanoma cancer, and it was really bad. And so the hardest part was calling my new wife of 1 year and telling her. So, of course, she freaked out, right? So it was really hard. So it really made me think about what I was doing at the time, selling jackets to rich people, essentially. You know, Nordstrom and Saks and Neiman Marcus and all that stuff. And along the way, I had got involved in the cycling scene out here in Phoenix, and I met this guy who was a great guy. He's since passed, but he was a successful businessman, but he also was a pilot for fun, and he was helping fly the Doctors Without Borders, their supplies down to Mexico.
Awesome.
And I'm like, that's really cool. I want to help make an impact like that, but I'm not a pilot.
Yeah.
And I'd had a friend that was a doctor that was going down to Mexico doing this. I'm like, I'm not a doctor. What can I do to make a bigger impact?
Yeah.
And then so God made it a line that Action Coach reached out and said, hey, how about becoming a business coach? And I looked into it, and I saw the impact that another coach was making with his clients. By the way, it was at a growth club.
Awesome.
And so it was because of going to another growth club that I knew the impact we were making, because my why now was to create abundance in other people. See, now I can go and volunteer my time and donate my money, but there's no leverage behind that because it's just me, right? Now, if I can go and help business owners scale up their business, one, it will create abundance in their life, absolutely. But when you're scaling your business, you're adding more jobs. And when you give somebody a job that needs a job or needs a better job, you're creating abundance in that person's family today. So, so now my why is really truly to make a bigger impact in the world, and creating 1,000 jobs in Arizona is one of my I am statements. I am creating 1,000 jobs in Arizona. So since starting this, I think we're at like 566 jobs we've created. So, by the way, my corporate name is Abundance Business Coaching, and that's how I came up with the Abundance Operating System.
There you go.
After it took me about 6 years to develop that system after becoming a coach.
Yeah.
And so we have a systemized way of doing it. It's also obviously custom, bespoke for the business owner. But so my why is helping them scale up their business to create abundance. And the other thing is what I stand against is business owners thinking that they have to give everything for their business and not have it all. So we all know the dad or the mom, you know, that is 100% work, whether they own their own business or they're just a big corporate person. They work a ton, and they sacrifice their time with their kids and vacations and everything else. Doesn't matter if they make a ton of money or not.
Yeah.
We all know that person that just works way too much. And you know, I know, you know, business owners that you know, they crank out way too many hours. They don't pay attention to their wives. Now somebody else is paying attention to the wife. Mm-hmm. Now they're divorced. Now they might get to see their kids every other weekend if they're lucky. They're fat, they're out of shape, they don't go to the gym, they're losing their hair, they turn to alcohol and drugs.
Jeez.
You know, so it happens. We all know somebody like that, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm against. And so I work with business owners who are good at what they do and help them get clear that doesn't have to be them, you know. So that's my why.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. No, I am a firm believer that when we are doing anything to enrich the lives of God's children, that He will bless our efforts.
Oh, yeah.
And I can see that in what you have done and what you're doing actively, which is one of the reasons I love you. You know, we've had many conversations, and just I always leave them feeling uplifted and motivated and like, okay, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna do it, you know. And so thank you so much for coming on, because I know that I have been enriched, and I know that the people watching and listening have been as well. Tom, again, we are so grateful that you came on. I am personally, because one of the big things about this is it's really for me first. I feel like to be able to learn from people that are successful and have different inputs and insights. And so thank you again for coming on. I love you, super appreciative of you, and the love that is reciprocated and how you have put effort into me. So that I can be successful. I really appreciate
My pleasure.
that.
My pleasure.
And guys, just to close it up here, just remember, like what was Tom was saying, a lot of awesome things. And just remember that don't go at it alone. We're not meant to be living here alone. We're not meant to enjoy life alone. And if we're alone, there's no one else to enjoy it with. And remember that when you have your why, it fuels you to do the things that are difficult to do. When you don't have the motivation, you'll know why you need to muster up the motivation to act. And if you don't have that why, it's okay. You don't need to have that to start moving. Just don't stop looking for it. Remember, guys, I love you. You're amazing. And remember, it's not just business, it's all personal. We'll see you next time.